On June 12, 1848, Abraham Lincoln wrote a letter to his law partner, William Herndon. At first glance, the letter appears to be nothing more than a quick reply because of a stack of mail that Abraham Lincoln has to get to. However, on further reading, the letter becomes a good window in the 1848 election. Here's the text of the letter. Dear William, on my return from Philadelphia, where I'd been attending the nomination of Old Rough, I found your letter and a mass of others, which had accumulated in my absence. By many, and often, it has been said that they would not abide the nomination of Taylor, but since the deed has been done, they are fast falling in. In my opinion, we shall have a most overwhelming, glorious triumph. One unmistakable sign is that all the odds and ends are with us. Barn burners, Native Americans, Talaman, disappointed office-seeking locofocos, and the Lord knows what. This is important, if in nothing else, in showing which way the wind blows. Some of the sanguine men here set down all the states as certain for Taylor, but Illinois in it as doubtful. Cannot something be done, even in Illinois? Taylor's nomination takes the locos on the blind side. It turns the war thunder against them. The war is now to them the gallows of Haman, which they built for us, and on which they are doomed to be hanged themselves. Excuse this short letter. I have so many to write that I cannot devote much time to any one. Yours as ever, A. Lincoln. The letter is short, but it provides some insight into the mindset of many Whigs in the days after Old Rough and Ready was placed on the ticket. At the heart of the letter is Lincoln's excitement of having nominated a candidate that many Whigs thought could win the election. At the same time, he doesn't take into account the outrage of Northern Whigs by nominating a slave-owning general who had been victorious in a war many Whigs had opposed. Lincoln's enthusiasm is apparent in the letter, and although the Whigs won the election, this pragmatism did irreparable damage to the party that led to its disappearance a few years later. For a little background to give historical context to the letter, Lincoln and other Whigs had been critical of the war with Mexico, declaring that President James K. Polk had instigated an unjust war. Lincoln went so far as to introduce a series of resolutions in the House of Representatives asking for information from the president about the start of the war. The Whigs believed that the war and Polk's management of it would be campaign issues in 1848. They were shocked, though, by the end of the war in February of 1848. Taylor had been victorious in battle during the war, winning at Palo Alto, Resaca de la Palma, and Monterrey. And as a result, he was courted by both the Whigs and the Democrats to be the leader of their party in 1848. Lincoln, whose beau ideal of a statesman was Henry Clay, declared Taylor to be the man that could win the election for the Whigs. The nomination of Taylor allowed the Whigs to deflect the harsh criticism many, including Lincoln, had received for opposing the war. This feeling is shown when Lincoln wrote that Taylor's nomination turns the war thunder against them. He firmly believed that the nomination surprised the Democrats and took away their argument for having supported the war. In his letter, Lincoln tells Herndon that many people would not abide the nomination of Taylor, but since the deed has been done, they were coming around. He was referring to the anti-slavery Northern Whigs, objecting to the nomination of a Southern slaveholder for the presidency. Lincoln and other Whigs, however, believed that Taylor could win. From the tone of the letter, it is apparent that the Whigs were tired of losing and wanted to win this one election, even if it meant nominating someone whose political leanings were largely unknown. Even as Lincoln declared that all the odds and ends are with us, anti-slavery Whigs were preparing to bolt the party. Northern anti-slavery Whigs declared that they would never support a slave owner as their nominee and left to join the Northern anti-slavery Democrats to form the Free Soil Party and nominate former President Martin Van Buren. The Democrats nominated Senator Lewis Cass from Michigan, who was a proponent of popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty was the belief that the people in the territories should decide the legality of slavery in the territory. Lincoln, ever the politician, felt that the disaffected Democrats in both the North and the South would be less likely to vote for Cass because of his stance on popular sovereignty. The Whigs believed that Taylor's military credentials would play well in the areas of the country where the war was popular, and his ownership of plantations would garner votes in the South. In his letter, Lincoln listed the barn burners, Native Americans, disappointed Tylermen, disappointed office-seeking Locofocos, and the Lord knows what, as supporting the nomination of Taylor. Lincoln believed that the loyalty to the party and the idea of winning a most overwhelming glorious triumph would sway many others to go along with those who were fast falling in. Lincoln and many other Whigs believed that the nomination of Taylor was the necessary factor to help the Whigs win the White House, along with a few key seats in Congress. He did acknowledge that Illinois would be a tough fight. Lincoln asked Herndon about Illinois in his letter, saying that many of the sanguine men here set down all the states as certain for Taylor, but Illinois, and it is doubtful. Can something be done even in Illinois? He closes his letter with the metaphor of Haman's gallows from the book of Esther in the Old Testament. Haman was an advisor to King Ahasuerus, who built a tall gallows to hang the Israelites, but instead it was Haman who swung from the gallows after he incurred the wrath of the king. At the time, Lincoln must have felt that this was a fitting description for what the Whigs had done to the Democrats. On Election Day, though, Taylor won less than half of the popular vote, although he won a majority of the electoral votes. The Free Soilers did not win a state, but they took enough votes from the Democrats to give Taylor the win in the crucial state of New York, while in Ohio, they took enough from the Whigs to give it to Cass. Although the Whig Party broke up after the 1852 election, the nomination of Zachary Taylor in 1848 started that dissolution. Michael Burlingame, in his biography of Lincoln, points to several anti-slavery Whigs storming out of the Philadelphia Convention, swearing to do all that they could to defeat Taylor. These are the men that Lincoln felt would come around and support the party. James McPherson wrote that Taylor's candidacy, quote, brought to a head a long-festering schism in Northern Whiggery. The division over slavery, which led to the breakup of the Whigs a few years later, was not readily apparent in June 1848 when Lincoln answered a letter from his law partner in Springfield. Lincoln felt that Taylor's nomination was the kind of move that would resonate for a long time after Election Day. He was right, but not in the way he had hoped.